So that's the switch for the vent. It was just on. Just for the purposes of the video, I'm going to turn it off for a few minutes. This is the container we use for ink wash, the part 2. We have tried various labels over the years, writing directly on the bottle, putting a label on there and then covering it with plastic tape, and whatever we put on there, the ink wash itself removes the label within 24 hours. So we've kind of been leaving it label-less. You just have to remember that this is the only bottle anywhere here that is like this. So everything else is spray and this is just a squirt. Right now it's empty, so to fill it up, you see right behind the haze remover is the ink wash. So I'm going to fill it with the funnel again. Of the two products, this is the more dangerous in terms of fumes. It'll be very important to rinse off that funnel before I put it back. Now, because the fumes are there and significant, I'm not going to go any further until I explain what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to turn on the vent again and I'll stop talking at that point. So if the haze remover is completely dry, let's put the screen in this way. Then what we need to do next is apply the ink wash to both sides. It is essential that the entirety of the dry haze remover get wet with the ink wash. Do not leave a tiny little spot of haze remover still dry. So this has to saturate both sides. I find no advantage to scrubbing. On the contrary, once you've applied the ink wash, you're kind of on a timer. Once you've applied that, you want to be blasting it out as fast as possible. So I will apply it and I will scrub only as a way to ensure its distribution. And as soon as I can, I will start blasting. Of all the times you're cleaning out a screen, this one is the most critical to have the underside of the screen facing you. Because if you have the top of the screen facing you, it's going to throw all those chemicals back onto you. This stuff will bleach your clothes. Okay? So when I've saturated both sides, I'm going to make sure that the underside of the screen is facing me. And I'm going to turn on the water compressor. And I'm going to start at the bottom. The bottom is important too, because if you start at the top, then the water is running down. And it's washing away the ink wash before you blast it out. Whereas if you start at the bottom, the ink wash can remain on there and it's going to blast out a little bit better. Sometimes, by the time you get about halfway up, it seems to start gumming up and it will cease to blast out as easy. If that happens, put the wand down, turn off the motor, add more ink wash to both sides, and then start blasting again. Okay? For reasons that I cannot explain, sometimes, more often than not, the haze remover and the haze will wash out fairly easily. But about every 5th screen does not. I've never been able to figure out a good reason for that. So if I'm doing a screen that does not blast out well, what I usually do is I'll finish rinsing so I get as much of the chemicals off as I can. Finish rinsing, I'll let it dry again, and I just reapply the haze remover and I'll do it all over again. But I don't want to do that and let these chemicals re-dry. So I want to rinse all of them off that I can, and then when it's dry, then apply a new coat of haze remover. Okay? Hopefully that won't be necessary on this one. Things are color coded, so remember that the red handled scrub brushes are for emulsion remover, and the two yellow handled are for the ink wash and haze remover. Okay? So now I'm going to turn on the vent, and I'm going to stop talking. Turn on the valve, off and done. You can see that it's not ever fast or easy, but it's possible. Notice something right here. You see how the crosshairs are not stained and the areas between the crosshairs are stained? That's a clear sign that the hazing that you're seeing there is from the emulsion. That's a clear sign that when that layer was exposed, or layers, it was probably underexposed. And that was probably caused from a too thick application of emulsion, which requires more light to fully cure. So they were able to print, but they weren't assiduous in reclaiming the screen, and or it was also harder to reclaim. So that's kind of evidence of how underexposure is the danger for stuff like this, okay? You can see it's not quick. It's never going to take out 100%, or with some screens it will, and it'll look like pristine white, but usually it will not take out 100%. So as long as I get it significantly better, I'm happy. Now I'm not going to continue to film this, but all I'm going to do is just slowly continue to go up. About halfway up, I'll probably add some fresh ink wash, okay? You just trip over to that. Make sure you get some gloves, okay? Thank you, Max.